Welcome to the Gut Reaction Podcast, and this week's episode will focus on why you can't lose fat and how carrying extra fat on your body can actually be extremely detrimental to your health. People often think fat loss is just about eating less and moving more, but it's more complex due to factors like metabolic adaptation and yo-yo dieting. Many people might not be eating enough as well, which sounds counterintuitive, but can be a major factor in fat loss struggles. So the first thing I want to talk about is metabolic adaptation. So metabolic adaptation is a body's response to long-term calorie restriction. It lowers energy expenditure to conserve energy, making fat loss more difficult. When you reduce calories for a long period of time, your body adapts by lowering your resting metabolic rate, or your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, meaning you'll burn fewer calories at rest. Basically, this is what happens when you lose weight. When you lose weight, your body's need for calories lowers. So when you lose weight, your BMR, MRI can decrease by 10 to 15% in some cases after like a really long calorie restriction. When I work with my clients and when I do restriction or calorie restriction on my own to lose fat or weight, I really try to keep it to 8 weeks at most. And then I'll go back up in calories for like a week to a month and then go back down if I want to keep cutting further. And when your metabolic rate drops, when your body adapts, it makes it harder to lose weight because the body becomes more efficient at conserving energy. And the hormones that control like whether you're full or you're hungry are changed as well. So like leptin, which tells you when you're full, decreases, and ghrelin, which makes you feel hungry, increases. So that can drive up hunger and cravings. Why this happens is because the body perceives long-term calorie restriction. Survival mode is not the right thing. I hate that term, but like our body doesn't want to lose weight. This is only like a recent thing within the long time that humans have been around that we are concerned about how we look and that we are concerned about having to lose additional fat. Like we live in a time where food is, at least here in the States and a lot of places, not everywhere, but food is very readily available and inexpensive for a lot of people. And so it's not like our body's main prerogative or desire to lose weight. We want to store energy in our bodies. We don't want to lose it. So when the body recognizes that it is in a long-term calorie restriction, it will metabolically adapt, slow your metabolism so you become, again, more efficient in using the energy that you have. A lot of people metabolically adapt because something called yo-yo dieting. We've all heard this term. And it's just like the cycle of losing weight, regaining it, and repeating. And man, this cycle is so damaging to metabolism and long-term fat loss goals. A lot of people follow these really restrictive diets, lose weight quickly because, yeah, it works. If you restrict an entire macronutrient or starve yourself, you will see results. But then they don't learn sustainability. They don't learn how to do this consistent way that can be consistent. So they go back to their old method or way of eating and regain it when they go back to and regain the weight when they go back to their regular eating patterns. If you don't learn how to do this sustainably, it's not going to stay off. Anybody can suffer for an extended period of time. But if you don't make this quote unquote easy or sustainable or find a way of eating that works for you, you can suffer for a couple months, but then you haven't learned how to keep the weight off without suffering in a non-sustainable way. So you'll return back to old eating patterns and gain it all back. And so what happens is when you yo-yo diet, when you go on an ultra-restrictive diet, your metabolic rate will drop because your body has adapted. And when you go back to old eating patterns, you'll actually gain more weight back because your resting metabolic rate is lower, but you're consuming the same amount of calories. So your body will store the excess calories as fat. And, there's multiple studies that show repeated weight loss and regain leads to more fat gain over time, particularly visceral fat. Increased fat storage after repeated dieting efforts is due to metabolic adaptation. That's all it is. Eat more than you need because you've gone so long with eating less than you should. So your body adapts and then you go all the way back to your previous eating patterns. Yo-yo dieting really damages your metabolism and can lead to increased insulin resistance, which can make fat loss even harder over time. And the mental effects it has psychological stress, the binge eating, negative relationships with food. Like, you should never label one food group or any food as bad or good. Food is food. There are foods that you should eat less of, and there are foods that you should eat more of. But no food in and itself is bad. You can find ways to work all different types of food into your nutrition and your diet. Now, the role of not eating enough. This is kind of goes into the metabolic adaptation and yo-yo dieting. A lot of my clients come to me, especially bigger ones, that have, no, I barely eat. I'm not losing any weight. Well, you're metabolic adapted. So like, you need to eat less than what you were doing before. A lot of times what you want to do after you go through a fat loss cycle is you recalculate what your total daily energy expenditure is, your new one at your new weight, and start eating at that point, because you want to get your metabolic rate back up to that. You don't want to remain metabolically adapted at lower calories. So you will metabolically adapt to a degree with your weight loss, but it actually will not be that big of a difference unless you've lost an enormous amount of weight. But for most people, a lot of them are just trying to lose, that extra 10 to 20 pounds. Your resting metabolic rate, your total daily energy expenditure is not going to change all that much. So many people don't realize that eating too little can harm and affect your ability to lose weight. Severe calorie restriction over time can make your body metabolically adapted. And so if you don't remain in a calorie restricted diet for a short period of time and work back up to your maintenance calories, you will remain metabolically adapted to that lower calorie restriction, making it in the future more difficult to lose weight or even keep it off, because you can't be in a severe calorie restriction for an extended period of time, and that's just not sustainable. So like I said, prolonged undereating lowers energy output through both RMR and non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which leads to stalls and weight loss. When you eat too little, you risk losing muscle mass, and muscle mass does burn more calories than fat, can slow down metabolism, but the bigger issue is that you are losing muscle mass. Like, you need muscle. Muscle is so important to improve the quality of your life and your ability to do things as you get older. Chronically low calorie can cause like changes in your thyroid hormones, T3 to drop, suppressing your metabolism. There are signs that you're not eating enough, like extreme hunger, lack of energy, mood swings, stalled in weight loss despite eating very little. Like, this is all evidence that you're not eating enough and that your calorie intake is too low. And let's go into the health risks of like actually why carrying excess fat on your body is extremely unhealthy. So first, I want to define what being overweight and obese is. So within like scientific community, being overweight is defined by having a BMI, body mass index, between 25 and 29.9. Obesity is defined by having a BMI of 30 or above. It's a medical condition where excess body fat increases the risk of health problems. Now, you don't need to be obese to have an increased risk of health problems, but it is a problem, regardless if you have, a lot of excess body fat on your body. There's two different types of fat. Really, there's visceral fat, which is stored around internal organs, which is the most dangerous because it causes an insane amount of inflammation, and it's tied to high levels of visceral fat are tied to like all chronic disease, or not chronic disease, like metabolic disease, heart disease. Having excess visceral fat will kill you. Subcutaneous fat is the fat directly underneath your skin, and it's less dangerous than visceral, but having excess amounts can still contribute to some form of metabolic dysfunction or health issues. Visceral fat will release inflammatory molecules called cytokines, which can increase the risk of developing conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, etc. It's also associated with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, where your body becomes less effective at using insulin, leading to higher blood sugar levels, and like I said, an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. So basically, I know this is unpopular to say, and for some people it might be hard to hear. Like, yes, you can still be healthy and have excess body fat on your body. And I'm all for people wanting to live the life they want to live, look the way they want to look. Everybody has There are so many different types of beautiful bodies out there, but having excess body weight on your body is bad for your health. Now, like I said, it's not hurting anybody if you're living a certain way and you're fine having a bunch of excess body weight on your body. It does not bother me. If it bothers you, like, yes, you should change it, but you just need to know that while at the time, like, maybe you feel healthy and you are carrying extra body weight, but like the long-term fats of this visceral fat accumulation build up over time, and it will lower your quality of life. It will lower your length of life and increase all-cause mortality. Now, someone can be quote unquote skinny and still have high levels of visceral fat. So they could look healthy, but still have dangerous levels of fat internally. People with a normal BMI, but higher visceral fat have the same health risks as someone classified as overweight or obese. They're at a higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome, even though they appear thin. So, really the big issue is carrying excess visceral fat. So even if you're not overweight by, conventional standards, having excess visceral fat can lead to chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and increased cardiovascular risk. It just so happens that people that are obese or overweight tend to have high levels of visceral fat around their organs and in their body. So like I was saying, like these long-term effects and consequences of having excess fat on your body, some people may feel healthy despite carrying extra weight or having a poor diet, or maybe they don't have a poor diet and there's other reasons that they're having a tough time, gaining weight. Like, it is not beyond me that sometimes it's not just as simple as being metabolically adapted or eating less, moving more. Sometimes there's things going, there's health conditions, something's going on with your hormones that it makes it really difficult to lose weight. But, there are also people that are conventionally are overweight, but like look at a lot of athletes in the NFL, especially offensive or defensive linemen. Like, they're big motherfuckers. They're also badass athletes in really great shape. But, most of the time when they get out of playing, they'll lose weight. And just, again, having that excess body fat and that excess weight on your body is not good for long-term health. Excess visceral fat can lead to cardiovascular disease due to inflammation and artery damage, can lead to type 2 diabetes from insulin resistance, can cause fatty liver disease where fat builds up in the liver, impairing its function, increased cancer risk due to chronic inflammation, and increased mortality. There's countless studies showing that high levels of visceral fat are linked to shorter lifespans. Like I said, even in people with a normal BMI. So, I want to go over some actual steps that you guys can do to improve your health, improve your quality of life, and live longer. So you want to focus on long-term sustainable changes to nutrition and exercise to promote fat loss. So don't do crash diets. Don't do crash diets. If keto, being vegan, vegetarian, low carb, high carb, low fat, whatever, carnivore, like whatever fucking crazy diets that are out there, don't do them if it doesn't feel sustainable to you. Avoid crash diets. Focus on building muscle, which will, while it's a minuscule amount, will help you burn more calories and prevent metabolic adaptation and your metabolism slowing down. Focus on eating enough nutrient-dense foods to support your body, your needs, your metabolism, and avoid, like I said, severe calorie restriction that will lead to metabolic adaptation. If you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, go on a short 8-week calorie deficit, work back up to your maintenance levels based off your new weight. And if you want to continue cutting, we'll go back down into a calorie deficit, and we'll just keep doing that, making sure you're not fully metabolically adapted. It's just also really important to understand that health isn't just a number on the scale. Carrying extra fat, especially visceral fat, poses a lot of serious health risks, even if you're at a normal weight. So health is so much more than what you see on the scale. So what you want to focus on is sustainable weight loss, muscle gain and maintenance, and just long-term habits that will help you lower all-cause mortality risk and live longer. Find a way of eating that you can maintain for the rest of your life. For me, I eat everything. I mean, there are some things that I don't eat because of my ulcerative colitis, but those are easy for me to cut out because it's not worth the GI nightmare and pain that happens from eating those things. But I still have sweets. I still have some processed food. I still drink every now and again. Maybe on average, a drink or two a week. I still have ice cream. I still have certain dairy. I still have vegetables. I still eat meat. I still eat bread and pasta and pizza, like, but not all the time. I found a way of eating that works for me really well that still allows me to have fun and eat and indulge. I found a method of exercise that works for me, that I enjoy, that I like doing. And it's sustainable. It's like easy for me to do. I found a way of living my life that allows me to maintain my body weight, my muscle mass. And obviously there are things that come up that will detract from that. Like when I had my arm surgery, I wasn't able to work out for a really long time, and I admittedly didn't change the way I ate, but I greatly reduced the amount of energy I was outputting. So I did put on a good amount of excess body fat, and I was okay with that. And once I was able to exercise, I went into a calorie deficit, got back to the weight and body composition that I wanted. And now since then, I've been back to the way I've been eating. Like I said, I overeat every now and again, but then I don't feel hungry the next day and I don't overeat. I still drink every now and again. I still have dessert. I still have delicious pasta, pizza, etc. And it's not a problem because I found a way of eating for most of the week. I found a way of exercising for most of the week that I really enjoy, and it helps me be consistent. Before I wrap this podcast up, I think it's really important to understand that there is a difference between motivation and discipline. Like, I don't always feel motivated to exercise or eat well. Like, to be honest with you, in 2 or 3 days, I'll be 90 days of being sober from marijuana. But I'll tell you right now, there are times that I'm so unmotivated. I just want to smoke a joint, play some video games, watch a funny movie, and order a stupid amount of food and just do that. Have some drinks. Like, that is fun, but it's not conducive to my goals. It's not good for me, and I'm glad I'm not doing it. But like, I'm not motivated all the time to like stick to this. But it's discipline and habits that I built up over a long period of time. So be patient. Like, sustainable change, changing behavior and habits takes a really long time. And then seeing results takes a really long time that are sustainable. If you start a crash diet, if I did a crash diet right now, I could lose an insane amount of weight real quick, but I won't keep it off because I'm not going to keep eating that way. I'm not going to cut out an entire macronutrient or food group or type of food because I love the way I eat. So there are methods. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk about fat loss. Now, I do want to say, I haven't really mentioned this before in my podcast. If you are struggling with achieving any of this on your own, I have an online coaching business. I provide nutrition and personal training remotely. So if you're listening to this, I would love to work with you. All you got to do is DM me or apply in the link in my bio tree in my Instagram. I promise you results. I promise you patience. I'll promise you I'll meet you halfway. I'll put in the work if you put in the work. So if you got any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram, NSZimmer, or check out my website, nz-fitness.com. And I would love to help you guys. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 6 of The Gut Reaction.